Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Magicbricks Dialogues by MBTV. This is your host, Nimesh Bhandari. I am the business head for PG and co-living segment for Magicbricks. Today, we are going to discuss on the evolution of co-living spaces in India. And we have an eminent panel with us. So please welcome with me, Mr. Shantam Mehra, co-founder of TribeStays.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Mr. Kumar, Kannan, CEO of Purpletab, and Mr. Sridhar, founder of Serenity Hostels.
Everyone.
Yeah, hi, everyone.
Right. So thank you, everybody, for joining. So let me just set the context and then we can start discussing. Right. So over the last few years, the entire space, PG and co-living space, have really evolved from shady looking properties to nicely managed, well managed, beautiful properties. And thanks to guys like you who have been doing a good job there. And it's a reflection of the changing preferences of the young audience, young consumers of India, be it student or working professionals, right? So here we are to discuss on how the space is going to evolve over the next 5 years. What are the current trends? And we have an eminent panel with us to discuss the same. So let's begin. So let's begin with you, Shantam. So how do you see the space, the co-living segment evolve in Pune and Mumbai? And do you see that the Pune market and Mumbai market are behaving differently when it comes to the co-living space? If you can just throw some light on that.
Yeah, of course. Very interesting point to start on. First and foremost is not only as an industry, but as a nation as a whole, we're the youngest nation in the world. And what brings with that is the standard of living, right? So the entire standard of living of the country is increasing.
Mm-hmm.
When I say increasing, obviously people are looking to spend more on experience as compared to the earlier generations where it was more towards probably saving and keeping it easy on the wallet, where now people are ready to shell out slightly more for a better experience. That first and foremost we're seeing with uh, parents, where they are looking to provide a much better education for their children right from when they're born, right? And obviously hand in hand comes with that student housing. uh, an arm of student housing moving ahead is your co-living model, where once a child or a parent or a nuclear family, once they have a certain standard of living within the household, that is what is then extended towards a co-living segment as well. And this is exactly what we're seeing in Mumbai and Pune. Not only these two cities, but across the nation as well, where we're looking to expand very heavily. Mumbai is a complete outlier when you look at the entire country from a real estate point of view. Um, it's mainly because of the real estate costs that do come with this international city. Um, the kind of expectation of the clientele is absolutely superlative, and that is what we're looking to bring to a place like Mumbai, where obviously with that, then your services and your facilities have to match the sort of international standards, and that obviously in turn gives you the revenue streams as well. So that is more or less what we're looking at from a Mumbai standpoint. Pune would definitely be a forefront for the entire nation as a whole when it comes to tier two, sort of the mid tier two, mid tier one sort of cities, where this is where we're seeing the largest standard of growth change, where the standard of living is really improving day on day, week on week, year on year, and we sort of mindset changes reflecting in the kind of um, improvement in the facilities that is required moving ahead in co-living, where the focus is definitely towards operations. You see four-star, five-star hotels. That is exactly the kind of situation where the co-living segment has to move towards.
Okay. So, but do you see a specific trend? For example, in Mumbai, food is not that important. In Pune, you see different kind of trend. In Mumbai, I believe the spaces would not be, because of the sheer city where new construction is difficult in western suburb or eastern suburb, right? So the kind of spaces you find is very different versus in Pune, you are following a build to suit model. So are there specific nuances for Pune and Mumbai market?
Look, it's not particularly in terms of the real estate aspect or something like that that actually causes any sort of a trend as such. Obviously, small things do come into play where like a parking spot in Mumbai is a huge facility that can be provided to someone, right, as compared to any other city in the country. But over and above, like I mentioned earlier, is that people are looking for convenience, especially in a place like Mumbai. Even though the space might be constrained, uh, we overcome that with a huge variety of services, and that is the biggest difference that we see in terms of a trend where concierge services, laundry services, housekeeping, all of these things like massage centers. So even though there might be a space constraint within your room, our focus and the trend that we are seeing is that we're sort of pushing the clientele towards the common areas, where we're providing them larger facilities in open spaces and common areas, whether it's gyms, sports centers, like I mentioned, massage centers, libraries, all of these things, where um, they want that community aspect and they don't want to be secluded within the room. So we're taking the square footage out of the room and into the common areas. And that is the large difference that we're providing, especially in places like
Fantastic. Thank you, Shantam. Sridhar, would you want to throw light on this with respect to Bangalore, especially since you're transitioning from a premium student housing space to co-living space?
Yes, sir. See, for the last, say, about a decade that we are running student housing for Christ predominantly, and we are majorly into only student sector. But now, with seeing the evaluation of or the choice of young generation towards co-living, we are also forced to try and do a new co-living concept for ourselves to retain students or to get into that sector also. But with time going from the last 2 or 3 years post COVID, then we see a lot of students who are wanting to stay in a co-living, and they have no issues with that, irrespective of parents or themselves. So the trend of co-living is increasing very high, and I think Zolo set the standards first, and then after that everybody started off with this thing. And now I see a lot of buildings, say out of 5 out of 10 are getting into the sector of co-living.
Okay.
Rather than being a predominant hostel as hostel for boys or girls as such, but most of them are converting their buildings into a co-living.
Got it. No. So one is this whole concept of boys and girls staying together, right? But this, apart from that, so do you also see a trend, as Shantam mentioned, that there are a lot of amenities, so to say, which they're providing, which is beyond just the stay. So do you also see that trend in Bangalore, that providing additional services, which adds to convenience? Is what the customer in Bangalore is looking for.
Yeah, now with changing sector dynamics of the whole thing, a lot of new players are offering a lot of new services, like sir mentioned, laundry services, or their pick up and drop facilities. At times now, co-living, I know a very good friend of mine who's running a co-living with pick up drop services to the nearest station. So all these things, and late night pickups for their residents, for their companies and stuff. So a lot of services that they are offering to attract more people to their thing. That's what.
Sure. Thank you, Sridhar. So Kumar, this question is for you. That as a property owner who typically lets out a building, you let out a building to various PGs and co-living brands. Right? So what do you consider? Would you prefer giving it to a branded player, a co-living player, or to a smaller PG operator? How do you weigh your options?
See, as a building owner, I would look at a couple of things before I decide to whom I would lease out to. The prima facie would be the number of rooms that I have in my property. So a branded player typically would be my choice if I'm having beyond 50 rooms, or say, so to speak, beyond 100 beds in my offering. because they have a larger play and a better marketing skills to get that filled in. And it also works as a win-win for both of them. And as the other co-panelists had mentioned, the involvement of the PG in the last 2-3 years has ensured that, it's not only about the rooms, but also having your community spaces in the building. So when we construct or when we plan the buildings, it's just not the rooms like the earlier, the situations where dining hall and only room has to be provided, but we also have to accommodate a little more on terms of the common spaces and other facilities that could be provided, which would become a preference. So the size of the building really matters before I choose the person that I want to lease it out to. So now, if I'm going for less than 100 beds, I would definitely go for someone who's a smaller operator. Okay, because there, in terms of the facilities and in terms of the number of beds, he's also a little more acute. And the branded players have very archaic agreements and other things, which is very difficult for a smaller size property to keep operating with. Okay. So it also becomes a little difficult when, for a small scale that you want to keep discussing with them or getting back to them. So when you have a larger set of rooms and beds to offer, it becomes a little more professional in terms of management from both ends. And that's when it becomes a win-win.
Okay. Interesting. But do you also see that the smaller PG operators are also feeling the heat, and they are coming back to you saying that, I want this additional space, I also want to evolve. Do you see that those guys are also evolving, looking at the competition around them?
100%. I mean, food has become a number one factor. Everybody wants to provide very good food, just not limited to 3 times. And then they do want to provide more facilities. It's becoming demand. So a case of fact could be that a building which was there before 3 years, okay, so and if it's not being transformed to the expectations right now in terms of extra services or facilities being projected, it doesn't get filled easily, or the number of inquiries that comes across is not very easy, and they have to lower their prices substantially also. So the returns drastically drop. So though the services might just add a little more value, but the value for money perceived by the guest staying in the PG adds a lot. Okay. So even the smaller players are upping the ante, and if they have to survive, they have to provide these services. As you said in the opening remarks, the quality of the PGs have drastically improved, and the survival is like it's kind of taken a mid part between a pure-fledged hotel, and it's no more like a small PG where you just get holed up in a small cot.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
cool, fantastic. Thanks for the insights, Kumar. Well, so my next question to the panel is that this space has got heavily funded. There are large funded players in this space. We all know their names. But how are the smaller players coming up? Because every day I see newer players coming up. The market is large enough to accommodate a large number of players, and there's a local play. I see co-living players who are focused on a particular locality in a particular city, right? So as a small player, what do you believe that what is the coping up strategy? How do you see what strategies are working out to defend your territory against some of the large funded players? So Sridhar, would you want to take up this question first?
Large players coming in, we've seen a lot of dynamics change in this thing. Their way of marketing, maybe, or their way, the way they present their building. All these things have changed very, very differently from previous years. But as local PGs or things, they are also trying to cope up with the same thing, not with a great fund, but still they are doing it. They're choosing better buildings these days. That is what I see. Local PGs or smaller PG buildings, they are maybe trying to get into a better buildings. They'll be able to compete with these large brands, and that is one thing. And location is a very important thing. They are trying to feasibly take buildings very close to the colleges or other places. That is another option for local players. That's what is happening now.
I get your point when it comes to the local players sort of defending territory against the much larger players that are coming into the market. There are always strategies, right? First and foremost, you're sort of played towards the consumer. End of the day, the consumer is such that when a person, whether he's 18, 19, or moving up to 35, 40 as well, living in co-living, for them, it's not, uh, a stipulated industry yet, right? But you have brand loyalty in place. That's not, reached that stage yet. It's still a very, very nascent stage. Like for the consumer and the client, there's only one sort of priority. That is a good experience, right? In today's day and age, they're not really bothered whether what your board says or what your name says, because none of the brands today have reached that level yet, whether it's a household name or a consumer brand. The only thing that matters is whether you're a local player, mid-size, or a larger player, heavily funded international player, whatever it is. You need to make sure that your consumer has the best possible experience, and then they're a repeat customer to you. That's the only thing that matters today, and that is definitely the thing that is going to drive growth. Even though you might be heavily funded and you could be in the customer acquisition play, with it, end of the day, it's the numbers that speak, right? So it's probably not going to be sustainable, adding beds on beds on beds, and spending quite heavily on marketing when you don't have a repeat customer, you don't have a repeat business, because ours is a repeat business. It's a service and hospitality business, end of the day, with a plain real estate, with a plain tech. So if all of this combined, you don't have the best possible experience for your consumer, then definitely a local player that probably has 30 or 40 beds in one single premises, who's put the heart and soul into it. They can definitely, within that micro market, be way ahead of you in terms of your per bed revenue, in terms of your repeat customers, your retention, all of these things. So in that sense, it always comes down, like any other industry, to the kind of experience that the consumer has, and that will have the last word.
Sure, understood. So you're saying that it's basically the consumer experiences that you're focusing on, and ensure that every property you manage it nicely, so that you defend your territory. It's a pretty interesting thing. So my next question to the panel is that do you guys see a trend, a shift in trend after the pandemic? So what are the post-pandemic shift which you observed? One is the trend which we all discussed, that people want more convenience, more amenities, but that was a trend even before the pandemic. But what has changed specifically after the pandemic is what we want to understand. Kumar, would you want to kind of take this lead?
Yeah, I mean, there's one very interesting thing is the PG business is highly unorganized, and I don't think anybody would have a clear data on how many PGs are there or how it's done anything. But post-pandemic, I think technology has been a very driving factor in this industry. And I think even Magicbricks has played a very good hand in giving a marketplace for the smaller players or even the larger players, whatever. It's given a good playing field for them. Okay, so it's just not the administration, but even marketing in terms of the technology has been a revolution or a revolution, whichever way you want to keep it, post-pandemic. So the smaller players who are generally, have been traditional marketing methods of going and canvassing and the prominent places and getting the customers are more tech savvy right now. Okay, so they do understand and they do compare in terms of the services that has to be given. Okay, so it's just not limited to the branded players that's coming across. Okay, so they do see that customized or personalized services, if provided. Okay, so it's basically see these PG. What is a PG between a hotel? Is like hotel you stay for a couple of days, but you're staying for a longer period. So it's like a second home to you, and that's where you need to feel a little more comfortable. So which is where the smaller players were having an upper hand, but technology was taking that away, and now they are also getting into that bandwagon. And I see a lot of technology adaptation, just not your online tools, but even in their installed at the PG itself. So as building owners, I do have to provide a lot more. I'm just not talking about CCTV or your laundry services or anything, but they're talking about the tracking systems and how the updates can be given. It's all app driven or whatever this is. So they want to provide convenience at their hand, and they are looking for new avenues in that aspect. So I think technology has been a major change.
Sure.
Post pandemic.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sridhar, do you see that post-pandemic consumers are looking for larger spaces? Students want earlier the preference was more 4 sharing, 3 sharing, but now the preference is shifted to more single sharing, twin sharing. And has that helped you increase the overall yield from the property? So the bed prices increased. So how is that shift
I
happening?
would not want to say the bed prices have increased, but students started wanting to have a much bigger rooms or spacious rooms. They no more they want to stay in a 3 sharing or a 4 sharing.
Mhm.
So the shift has been towards 2 sharing mostly, or a lot of flat systems these days because they have their own privacy in terms of larger space, larger living and everything.
Mhm.
Prices have been increased on the room sharing prices, but in terms of shift, you can see they want to stay in a larger room space.
Okay. Okay.
What we felt initially would take 5 to 6 years of a mindset change when it came to universities.
Mhm.
This is solely focusing on student housing. What we are seeing is a massive shift in the mindset of universities, where, like Sridhar also mentioned, 3, 4, 5 sharing is now obsolete, and common toilets and all of that, it can't suffice anymore. Where they're looking to move to single or twin and things like that. And what universities have realized that um, providing a high level of accommodation is not their main forte. You need to tie up with bigger brands and larger brands and professional brands of the space, to make sure that their clientele remains with them in terms of this sort of requirement, especially post pandemic, where most of the universities had 2, 3, 4 sharing upwards, common toilets and all of these dorms. So now that is obsolete. So they are looking at tying up with many of such operators. Like we are in touch with about 15 universities across the country, where they're looking to tie up with us for anywhere upwards of 1,000 bedded facilities per university, where they've made sure that okay, their main focus is academics, and providing this sort of accommodation should be held by professionals.
Interesting.
So this is a partnership that has really come into the foreplay, post pandemic, where we felt it would take 5 or 6 years for this change,
Mm.
happened across 2 years. So that was very, very positive
Very
for the
interesting.
space.
So you're saying a university having a well-managed space has become a USP to sell their courses, sort of.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
For a consumer, when you're choosing between two
Mm.
universities, this has become the deciding factor, where what kind of accommodation is one of them providing. So it's become a marketing stand. It's become a big USP for many of the universities, where in today's day and age is an absolute need and requirement, right, to provide accommodation. Now it's come down to what level of accommodation we can provide, and universities have understood that partnering with a professional player is reaping rewards. So that is a very, very big shift that we saw
Very
post pandemic.
interesting. I think I can correlate. I can relate because a few months back I was in North Campus, Delhi University North Campus. So I could
Right,
see,
right.
all these spaces mushrooming up there. Interesting. Most of you are right now focusing on 1, 2 cities, right? So is multi-city expansion part of your strategy? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Again, we've just had, I mean, the strategy that we're running currently is we're in the premium space.
Mm.
We're always going to be in the premium space because that is where we see the highest rental yields being given out to landlords like Kumar. And mostly over and above that, what we're seeing is that this is where the highest profitability lies. And the consumer is willing to pay, uh, higher and higher every year. Obviously, if it only coincides with the kind of service that we are providing, the customer is smarter and more intelligent than any of us operators, so they understand exactly what they want and what is available in the market. So we are definitely currently now in 2 cities. We've already signed upwards of 4,000 beds in another 10 plus cities. So over the next 2 to 3 years, we're definitely going to go about 14 to 15 cities plus. This is all going to be tier two, tier one cities
Okay.
itself. We're not
So tier two is
moving
also a
towards.
focus area for you.
Yeah, I would say the higher end of the tier two cities, where probably you could put a Pune, Indore, Noida, all of these places. But main focus is on cosmopolitan and Actually, the main focus is towards premium universities, which are on the outskirts of larger cities. So these sectors, and with co-living, definitely the top five cost cities. That's what we're looking at.
Okay. Okay. Sridhar, do you also plan to expand across multiple cities?
As of now, as a personal choice, we are not doing that. We wanting to stay back in Bangalore and explore. We have a lot of space yet to be covered in Bangalore itself.
Okay.
So there's a lot of options in Bangalore. And why this option or why this choice? We as a team were not looking at number of beds that we hold. We're looking at number of occupants that we want to run with. So every building that we take, we want it to be at least 85 to 90% full. That's how we're running it. Unlike a lot of other big brands with funding taking over buildings and just naming the number of beds that they have, we're not doing that.
Okay.
So we are going one by one. Bangalore is still a bigger space. Soon we will, in the coming 1 or 2 years, we will expand to other cities like Hyderabad or Chennai. But as of now, no, we are sticking back to Bangalore.
Okay. Okay. So Kumar, as a property owner, are you considering, getting buildings in tier 2 cities and other cities? Are you planning to expand? Do you see that demand coming up organically in other cities, and hence you're planning to expand to other cities?
Yeah, thanks for phrasing it up, Nimesh. So, yeah, we are seeing an uptick in terms of the acceptance, especially after co-live is being a little more accepted as in the society. Okay, so, but quite frankly, I've not seen the kind of occupancy or the trend at that level as you see in the metropolitan cities like Bangalore, Bombay, Pune. Largely because the employment itself is very different. You have your universities, your the IT sector, everything that is thriving in these places, and the acceptance of PG is a lot more here. But there's definitely a steep uptick in the tier 2 cities. So, if you ask me, probably another 3 or 4 years, we might consider over there.
Well, so the next question to the panel is that do you see consolidation is on the cards in this segment? Do you see that there'll be trend like in real estate? We have seen larger builders taking up smaller builders, and there's been consolidation after RERA. Do you see here also consolidation will happen? Some of the larger brands will take over smaller brands?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the norm in every single industry that we look at, and I don't think consolidation is anything negative. First and foremost, again, it was a trend post-pandemic where before the pandemic, there were about 15, 16 players, all sort of haphazard, growing in all sort of different directions and different segments as well. The largest of the largest, with all the funding in the world, even they couldn't suffice the pandemic. So it has nothing to do with the kind of money or anything that you have. Consolidation can be a good thing for you, for the smaller players, especially where you do get an exit. You do probably have a path then to make sure your vision and your goal is met, in some sort of a way at a much larger scale. Another thing with this is that currently there's no international worldwide player that has entered full-fledged into our country, even though I feel the largest opportunity in student housing and co-living is within India at the moment. So they're sort of just waiting on the sidelines, and this is again through personal discussions with many of the larger funds and larger players of the world, where they're just waiting on the sidelines to see, especially post-pandemic, couple of years, discussions like this, where what the trends are, what are the kind of occupancy that we're seeing, what is exactly the product that the consumers are looking for. They can definitely be easily 4 to 5 unicorns in this space when student housing and co-living, being the youngest country in the world, being a part of real estate and tech as well. So this can definitely happen, and yeah, consolidation is the way forward. A lot of consolidation has already happened within sort of smaller players and mid-sized to larger size players. So yeah, but again, I don't feel it's anything negative. It does give the smaller players an opportunity and an exit. So yeah, I think definitely over the next 2 or 3 years, there will be more players coming in, there will be larger players coming in, and smaller players will be getting exits and M&As.
Sure. Kumar, as a property owner, do you see that this whole consolidation spree, the some of the larger players, they acquiring 30 buildings, 40 buildings, even 100 buildings in a month, right? That's going to kind of affect your bargaining power, with these guys. Do you see that, more and more it will lead to, property owners being squeezed, rather, right, by these larger players as they gain their muscle?
I would say that if there are at least 3 or 4 companies in the field, I have a better bargaining power. I can always, pitch it against each other and say that what can come across, because they are, I mean, in a race, they're always trying to be a little better than the other. So as long as you have a good location, that is prima facie the important thing most of the PGs look for. And that will determine your bargaining power. So unless it's going to be a monopolistic situation, which I don't foresee, there seems to be healthy competition in place. So that is when I'll have to be worried. Otherwise, I think it's healthy for the industry. Competition is anytime healthy.
Okay. Well, so yeah. So my next question is that, how important is brand, in this when it comes to deciding PG and co-living, and how are you guys building your brand, right? So this is for Sridhar.
A brand is very important to get registered with your consumer. And according to me, brand comes with the quality of service that you place. It's not just about the branding that you do to your company. The service that you provide, the facilities that you provide to the students make you another brand. It's just not about just branding or stuff. So branding is very important. As a brand, you need to sustain whatever promises that you do to the consumer.
How are you engaging the consumer to build the brand? Are you using some medium to build the brand? So what are you doing specifically to build your brand and ensure that the brand stays with consumers?
See, basically, we're trying to engage them with a lot of events, in-house events and other things. That is one thing. And the kind of services that we're providing, we're always keeping it at up the market or at the best quality. That's how we're doing it. So engaging students is very important. That's what we're doing.
Okay. Shantam?
Branding, when it comes to it, right, it's all about strategy. Where you place yourself in the mind of consumer, right? It's all about perception of what you're putting forward. So for us, it's very, very important, like a medium like Instagram. Instagram is so very important in today's day and age, where it's not only to reach out to your consumer, it's what you actually put out to the world in terms of who's engaging with you, right? It's very, very important that the kind of clientele that we are connecting with, we need to know their needs and wants. So obviously, social media is very, very important. A platform like Instagram is no more just fun and games. It is a very economically driven platform where it's so important to project yourself in the right way, where you have a reach of millions and billions of people at a click of a button.
So my penultimate question, and then after that, there's another question. We'll end the session. Is about, do you guys see a alternative revenue model emerging? I mean, you guys are hosting 100 students, 200 students, maybe, or 200 professionals rather, and students in every property. So large number of people are staying in a property. Do you guys see that there'll be a revenue model emerging in future where brands would want to approach you guys? When I say brands, which means brands who are typically want to target young audience, and they would use your space, your premise as a platform to launch their brand, and that will become another revenue stream for you guys to monetize it, right? So hypothetically, say for example, some brand can do a test marketing of their product at your property, or there can be some communication, brand communication at your property. So do you guys see that evolving, and that evolving very fast? So Sridhar,
yes,
what do you want to?
Yeah, that is already in line now. We've recently got few brands that want to showcase their products in our hostels. One being beauty products. Basically, we have a large girls hostel, so they want to showcase their beauty products and give samples and stuff. That is one thing. And we have a multiple electric bike companies that want to showcase their bikes and give test rides and things to students. So this is becoming, this is in line actually. And as a revenue model, yeah, we could make the benefits out of it. But in the going line, yes, I think a lot of brands will start coming to this space because they get large number of people to market at once.
I see a lot of potential in the F&B space, partnering in the PG, along with the PGs. And it is a big catchment point for a lot of brands. Okay, so, because they're staying there and they can directly get in touch with the customers instead of being online. So it is evolving, and I'm definitely foreseeing a lot of a big ecosystem that can develop around the PG space itself. And from our point of view, we are redesigning some of our buildings to give some space for these kind of activities to happen. Even our existing tenants have been requesting.
And I feel this is just level one, where your retail or your on ground brand sort of engagements is definitely something that comes to mind, but it's just level one where we've done it multiple times. But like Kumar earlier mentioned, is that tech is a very, very big player, right? And what we all need to understand is that collectively we're all catering to one specific segment of the market. What is the most important and the largest revenue driver of the largest companies in the world is data. Like specific to Tribe, what we do very, very well is our tech is so heavily driven towards data acquisition that we went keyless and cashless from day one. Mainly because I wanted to know what time the student enters, what time the student taps to open his door, what time the student enters the gym, what time they eat food. This is sort of so that we can trend the sort of lifestyle, right? Over and above that, we have touch points with lakhs of students on our website, on our app. Many of them book with us, many of them don't even book with us. But I have a reach to a very specific audience, which is high income bracket, middle class, upper middle class background, earning a certain amount of money, willing to pay X amount for their academic fees, willing to pay X amount for their accommodation between the ages of 18 to 30, right? So this is a very, very specific um, age group that we're targeting, and we have very specific data for this age group. And that is what brands are interested in. And we have,
really
lakhs of data points or lakhs of students across the world in that niche sector. Then when you're a brand that is catering to a similar sector, that is when they'll pay you the big bucks for something like this, as compared to, okay, you can do an activation on ground for 200 kids. But this is where the larger work lies.
Closing remarks on how do you see the sector evolving? How do you see space evolving in the next 5 years? Any trends which you want to highlight for the audience?
Co-living will be the next trend, and for seeing further, I feel you should start building up single bedroom properties, or those are much into scope now, rather than rooms and toilets. Basically, that's what I see a trend in Bangalore now, at least. I don't know what Nimesh sir has to say about what is the situation in Mumbai now, but in Bangalore, single bedroom houses occupancy is always full, and that's a trend. And in terms of co-living, that's going to evolve very fast, and individual hostel PGs that will also stay, but co-living is the best next thing.
In smaller trends, what we see is build to suit is definitely coming into play. Our specific focus is so heavily on rental yields, where we are definitely going to provide the highest rental yields to the landlord and builders, developers, because we see over the next 5 to 6 to 8 years, there is going to be a fight for the right location and the right sort of property. So this is where sort of strategies will come into play. How strategies we pick today will come to fruition over the next 4 to 5 years, where landlord tenant have to come on into a partnership. And again, I don't only mean revenue share. In all sorts of partnerships where there's a high earning for them as well, because it cannot only be monetary, in the sense where if someone is providing X facilities or X amount of rent and go with them, right? Like we are looking at coming up with 60 properties with one single developer and providing a renting yield across the portfolio. So these are the sort of trends that we have to think slightly outside the box if you want to get a step ahead. But yeah, end of the day, the consumer is the winner, and I think we're all here to give them a better standard of living and a better experience.
Fantastic. So you see supply being, changing drastically, more built-to-suit properties. Sure.
Yeah, and also not drastically. Again, we're still at the very, very nascent stage when it comes to competing with any commercial properties or anything like that. When you look at pan-India scale, but definitely over time, I think student housing and co-living is going to providing the highest rental yields across sectors.
Sure. Kumar, closing comments from you.
Yeah. So there are three interesting points that we are kind of observing. So though they're all very much in the early stages, the first one anyway, as Sridhar had preempted what I want to say, is just the small cubicle rooms is passive. With the advent of co-living, I think they are looking for a hall and a bedroom, and the occupancy is getting filled much faster in these segments. So yes, and I don't think just because of co-living, I think it's just the need for space to live in also could be the need for it. So you had 1 BHK earlier, so the K is taken off because people want more convenience. They don't want the kitchen, they don't want to be cooking or anything. So they, as long as being taken care of by the PG operator, they're fine with that. Okay, so the bedroom hall is definitely the future thing, is what we foresee, at least in the time frame that you've mentioned for the next 5 years. The second, which we see, is the demand is no more for smaller properties, but the hunger for larger properties to serve a bigger community, to create a society over there, and as you said, to offer better services. And by bigger, I don't mean like 100 or 200. I'm talking about inquiries coming in much beyond that in terms of the number of beds. So they are looking at creating a complete a society itself. Okay. So to think small, I think may not be the thing. So as consolidation is also happening, and even the smaller unorganized players or the unbranded, as you put it, even they are also foreseeing that it's better to the economics are more rational when you have bigger beds to manage, and the liking towards PG is a lot more right now because of the facilities being provided by the other panelists or the other owners also. So it's a lot more convenient for them. Okay, so that's the other thing. So the size of the PGs are going to be much larger. And the third interesting segment is for the entire rental industry itself, I foresee. I mean, it could be, you will have better data to see, is it's not only the students or your professionals, your IT professionals or the blue collar jobs who are looking at, but I'm talking about even the lower strata income who are looking at PGs as an option to stay. Okay, and there are quite a few PGs servicing that segment too. Okay, so the word that is coming in is convenience. I don't want to be cooking. I don't want to be looking into the plumbing or electrical or management of my places. Okay, somebody takes care. Let me pay a little higher, but let me be at the convenience, and I'm living in a cutthroat world. So as long as somebody is ready to take up that, I'm fine with it. So I think to that, they're ready to shell out a little more. And I'm looking to see how the rental itself ecosystem evolves.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kumar. So with this, we'll close the session. Thank you, Kumar. Thank you, Shantam. Thank you, Sridhar. So Magicbricks is committed to provide an excellent search and discovery experience in this segment, and we'll continue to do that. We've been continuously improvising our offering to serve the consumer better. The session was really insightful. Thank you, everybody.